Welcome to Voice of the Voiceless, the podcast where your story matter. Join Pete and Maddie as they explore the story of this week's Voice of the Voiceless. Let's find out.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Voice of the Voiceless. I'm Pete. Maddie, say hello to the kids.
Hey everyone.
And we have a very special guest today. Please meet Yvette. Yvette, how are you doing?
Hi everyone. I'm doing amazing. So happy to be here.
So, Yvette, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. I know you were telling us before we got recording that you had your own podcast before. I know you got a book we're going to definitely talk about. So, why don't you tell everybody a little more about yourself?
So my name is Yvette. I was a former stripper and I got out of the shackles of addiction, which was horrible. And that's what my book is about. It's called Booze, Blow, and Pancakes. And it's breaking free from the shackles of addiction because booze and blow sometimes are very apparent on someone, but pancakes, which was my food addiction and my bulimia, had me from the ages of 16 to 47. So that's people are like, "What's the pancakes all about?" I'm like, "The pancakes is the silent killer, the food addiction." And so I struggled through that my whole life with these addictions, and I'm come on to the other side. And I just want to let anyone who's out there alone, like I felt so alone and struggling in silence, to know that there's hope and if I can do it, like the lowest of the low, homeless, stripper, come out and be a mom and have a business and be fit and do things for other people that anyone out there can do it too.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. So, the book, okay. So, I love the name. Let's just get off the right at the bat. I love the name of that book. It's great. The fact that you said a lot of the proceeds go to suicide awareness, I love that. 100% love that. It's great to hear that someone's out there fighting for these guys because, the statistics are just insane with that stuff. But, from you went from stripper to where you're now, which is not a weird story for me because I had somebody who was a dominatrix. I went to a life coach. So, like I've heard some interesting stories along the way, you know what I'm saying though? But, so
Slaving.
like how did you break your addiction? I know that's gotta be a tough one though, especially that, getting into that area with that kinda stuff, it had to be rough, huh?
Yeah. I think the hardest addiction for me was definitely the drugs because drugs get you high quick.
Mhm.
And it comes down quick, right? The high is quick, the down is real rock bottom quick. Alcohol, you can be a functioning alcoholic for a long time. For me, when I was doing the clubs and stuff, I blew a hole through my nose, so that was the bottom line for me. So I did my cocaine stint, and when
Jesus.
it was over because 'cause I'm vain and I knew that my nose would collapse. But that's when the alcohol took over full force, and people think like, how can alcohol take you down? Alcohol can take you down to your knees. I always thought every rock bottom was a floor lower, and I always tell people you can get off on the fifth floor. You don't have to on the parking or the basement because that's where I was. But I think alcohol for me was much harder than the drugs. The drugs I had to quit because if not, I was like so vain that I thought if my nose collapses, I can't do it. But the alcohol, I said I would never drink in the morning. I would never buy alcohol at home. At the end, I was waiting for the liquor store to open because I couldn't function with the DTs. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I mean, it is rough, man. Alcohol is a tough one to beat, especially, a lot of people that get into it don't make it out, so hats off to you for making it out, though. I
Yeah.
mean, especially when it comes to addiction, though, people like just hearing those 3 words, "Well, I was a stripper, I was chasing drugs, and I was drinking." I guarantee people gave you a strange look the minute you told them that.
Oh my god. All my clients, because 'cause I'm a trainer now and I'm a life coach, and then I own a gym for women for personal training, and they're like, "You should write a book." And I'm like, "Booze, blow, and pancakes. If I ever write the book, it's gonna be booze, blow, and pancakes." And everybody would be like, "But what is the pancakes?" But honestly, out of all the addictions, sticking your head in a toilet where people take a shit, you can't get any lower than that. And that's what it brought me to my knees. And at
Yeah.
the end of my addiction with bulimia, which was from the age of 14 when I was anorexic to the age of 47 when I was finally done. I mean, I can't even believe I'm still here. I used to throw up like 8, 9, 10 times a day, go teach fitness classes, and then go to the bar. And that was my routine for a long time. But I'm telling you, God is good. God saved me. I believe in God, fitness, and a 12-step program that I'm really involved in that saved my life and I'm really active in.
That's awesome, though. I mean, that's really great to hear that you got out, especially being bulimic for that long. That's kind of a crazy amount of time, though. Especially that. That's such wide range. But look at you now. You got a book. You're a personal trainer. You're a life
Yeah.
coach. Look at you go, man. You've done a
Want
lot
to know
since then.
what? I want to
Is
share
that
this
long
because
term?
What, the bulimia?
Was there a long-term, like, side effect of having bulimia that long
Yes, I lost
on your body?
my hair, my teeth, my esophagus. So what happened was I I got sober, right? I started a family and I adopted a child and the kids were at school and I was when everyone was at school and my husband was at work, that was like my party time. So I threw up and I was over the toilet bowl and that little boxing bag in the back of your throat, like I literally couldn't swallow and I'm like this is the day. I've gotten a free ride for so long. This is the day I'm dying. And then all of a sudden I could swallow and I just had like an awakening moment at that time that if I don't stop, I'm going to die. And I always had this gut whisper go to Tony Robbins, go to Unleash the Power Within. There's something that called me. God called me to this event. And Tony Robbins, I went, he did this hypnosis with 15,000 people. What will happen if you continue your behavior a year from now? And I swear to God, Maddie, 15,000 souls screaming and crying. And if you continue for 2 years, and if you continue for 3 years, and I just saw my kids like at my grave crying, saying, Mom, it didn't have to be this way. And I came back from that event and I didn't do it again.
Kudos to
Well,
you. That's
yeah,
powerful.
definitely. No, I agree. 100%.
That
Kudos,
takes that
man.
takes a lot of so much willpower to have an addiction that spans that long, and, I mean, if we're being really honest about it, food addictions are so hard to beat because food is everywhere, and in our media, they portray women's bodies a certain way, and women can't have to look a certain way, so there's a lot of pressure in society, and then on every corner is a fast food joint, and when you wanna go eat healthy, it's more expensive, so eating
Mhm.
disorders are very prevalent, but they're not talked about, and it's not just women, men have them too.
Oh my God, so many men wrestlers, so many men that have their especially their sport, affiliated with their weight. It's crazy. And so many women suffer in silence because sometimes it's not just bulimia, it's binge eating disorder, hiding food, then restricting food, then starting a new diet. And it's all the mental prison that goes into all of that. All of that. I want to be thinner. I can't be thinner. I need to be thinner. And the
Even
circle.
that was me. I would hide food. I would my psychiatric medications made me have this, like, insane appetite. So, like, I wouldn't eat it alone in public. I didn't like to eat in public at all. I would go from, like, store to store and stash food. I had it hidden under chips and candy under my pillow at night. When I was in public, I would try to eat healthy foods, and I got to 420 pounds, and then it turned into the reverse where no sugar, no carbs, exercise 6 hours a day, and I dropped all this weight, and now I'm on a lifestyle journey, a lifestyle, fruits, vegetables, proteins, lean proteins, trying to get my metabolism restarted because what really happened is with my binge eating with and then I would go into starvation, I wouldn't eat at all, my metabolism is shot. So and then the medication I take doesn't help at all. So there are I appreciate you saying that because there are different types of eating disorders and it's very difficult to overcome.
Very difficult, and I
Yeah,
I
no, I
applaud you,
agree.
Maddie, because so many women suffer in silence. What you said, so many women will be able to identify with, but they never say, and what I always say, there's secrets keep you sick, you can never get better if you're holding on to secrets because you have
Yeah.
to take the power out of those secrets and share it with another and ask for help.
I recently joined I have a coach, a wellness coach, and they help me monitor my food and they're helping me giving me natural supplements to make my metabolism start to restart. And it's nice to have that accountability piece for someone like me who was a secret eater. Like I wouldn't tell my husband like I remember I went out for lunch. My husband said, "Hey, you want to have lunch together?" And I didn't want to tell him I had already eaten, so I went and had a whole nother meal even though I wasn't hungry.
Yeah.
So, overcoming but food is everywhere, it's so hard to overcome.
Yeah, and it's like drugs and alcohol you can quit, but you have to manage food. It's like, "Here, just have a half a line of cocaine. Have, half a drink." It's really hard to do, but that's what we have to do with food, Like I tell people, it's the hardest addiction because you don't stop it, you manage it, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that,
Mhm,
Matt.
mhm. It is difficult. Well,
Yeah,
thank you for sharing yours. I've definitely had my moments where I ate so much that I was throwing up, and so I just wanna shout out to all the people out there who are struggling with any type of eating disorder, whether it be anorexia, bulimia, binge, whatever it may be. You're not alone in this, and your body is beautiful just the way you are. We're not meant to look like some poster. We're meant to look like who we're supposed to be, and it's about being healthy, really. Like, I go to the gym, I have a personal trainer. I'm not losing weight and boosting my metabolism to be a model. I'm doing it so I don't die at 50.
Right. That's amazing,
Yeah,
and
sure.
that's what people need to hear more about. Because if especially our young girls and boys that are looking on social media, everything is, "I need to have a 24-inch waist, a 36-inch booty, 36-inch boot," like, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. We're not built like this. That is store-bought. Those bodies are store-bought, but the 15-year-old mind doesn't know that, so
Yeah, yeah, the internet's a scary place, especially for the young minds of the things they're seeing. These girls that are putting on these false imageries of, oh, well, I have to look like a certain way for boys to notice me, or I have to be Cindy Crawford to like style. You know what I mean? It's not really what it's like, though. I mean, like most people these days, healthy looks different for everybody. Like Maddie, me, different things would look different for us. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you can look like some of those individuals, but it takes time to get there. I think that's what people think. They want the miracle cure. Oh, it's going to fix my problem overnight. Well, that doesn't exist, unfortunately. It takes time. These guys that you see, all these guys that are look in great shape, they'll tell you it took them a while to get there. They had a lot of conditioning and things like that. And I'm always watching these videos. I can't think what the guy's name is now. Zach something on Instagram I watch. He always goes out these practical meals like for people. He's like, listen, just because it's in a can doesn't mean it has to be an enemy kind of thing. And like he's not demonizing anything. And he goes out and it's like shows you that you can make these like healthy meals. He's like, and you don't have to spend a fortune on them. It's like, this is how much I paid. This is how many meals I'm going to make with it. I like those kind of videos because it's like, sweet, because I can meal prep ahead of time for me. And, then everybody goes, well, it takes time. Yeah, it takes time, but then your whole week's already set up for you. That way you don't have an excuse because, that's the problem. Everybody wants everything now and all the fast food and all that. God, dude, if you all really looked at your labels, like you'd see some of the stuff that's in them, it blow your mind. And you can't
yeah.
pronounce half the things that are in these foods these days.
Actually just did a video
I
about
appreciate your book.
I'm sorry, what?
Go ahead.
No, I was
Go
actually
ahead.
just gonna say, I did a video on, systems, the systems that are required to be fit, the system that's required to maintain my sobriety, the system that's required to have a business. Because I think, like you said, Pete, everybody wants that microwave version. And without a system, you're just starting over on Monday, every new week. The new shiny diet, the new shiny business I'm going to open, the new shiny speaking engagement. I'm going to be a life coach. But you have to stick with it long enough. So I know for me, like to maintain my sobriety, I have to go to 3 recovery meetings a week. I have to help another alcoholic. I have to read. I have to do my prayers. I have to journal. That's a system to maintain what I've achieved. Same thing with my food addiction. I have a system so that what I repeat is who I become. And I think that a lot of people just want that quick. They see it on Instagram and they're like, oh, I'm going to buy that. And it's really about the system that you can the process of doing it day in, day out.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's what it is. A lot of people see that. And then, I like those guys that come out and just tell you the real deal. They're not lying to you. They're just not feeding you crap. Just telling you like it is. A lot of these guys, I think they need to understand that, it takes time to get to these places, these systems in place, and then it becomes second nature. It's not even a system anymore because you're just used to doing it. You go autopilot, and things like that too. And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people is that, they don't know what to do in situations where they have to adapt on a dime. They're like, "Oh, well, woe is me." And I always look at those people. I always say, "Oh, everything's going bad for them." Okay, so then, like, what are you doing differently that you're doing now? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you changing to make the outcome different? Because some of that stuff you can. If you literally analyze some of it, your bad health is because you need to eat better. Start looking at the foods you're eating. Like, you don't have to make super big changes. A lot of times it's just moderation of a lot of things. And a lot of people can't even do that because it's just hard because that's what they're meant to do these days. It addicts you to a lot of these stuff. And they're like, oh, well, now we got you hooked. Here we go. Let's keep feeding you crap because no one looks at the labels. They really don't. Like if most people read some of these stuff and looked at what's in these products, and things like that too, they start to realize like what to better understand their nutrition. And I think that that's where the education system fails a lot of these kids is not teaching them like, hey, what to look for in certain things. Like this is what healthy eating would look like. Give an idea. What kind of ingredients and things you can look at because a lot of that. It's shoveling all these sodas and these candies and all those like you can have that stuff still. Don't get us wrong, you can still have it. It's cool, but Like, don't demonize yourself about it because a lot of people do that too. They'll start giving themselves hell about it. "Well, I had an ice cream today." Okay, you had 8 ice cream. All right, that's cool. What did you do the rest of the week, you know? What did the rest of your week look like? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's the all or nothing. I think that's what everything, I had
Mhm.
one fucking ice cream, so forget it. The whole weekend's gone, and then the whole week, and then you gain 3 pounds, and then you're starting over. But I love the question that you said, Pete. What are you doing differently? I think that's the number one question for anybody who's stuck, that wants to change. What are you going to do differently? Because anybody
Exactly.
can change where they are right now, whether it's food, drugs, or alcohol, but it's gonna require change, and change requires effort, and I think that's the hardest part that people gotta
That is
grasp
exactly
this.
what it is.
Yeah.
I
Exactly what it
I
is.
love I love to celebrate people in recovery, no matter
Me too.
whether it's mental health, substance use, eating disorders. I have a nonprofit, and we're big on lived experience. We share recovery stories on our website. We are peer support specialists, yada, yada, yada. And I just lost my train of thought. This is perfect. We love lived experience. How was your mental health improved by from going from hiding these drugs and alcohol and eating to now being vocal and sharing your lived experiences? Like, was it a freeing feeling to be able to be open, to write a book, to share with others, to inspire?
Absolutely. It was definitely the most freeing thing I ever did was to recover out loud, because even though I'm in an anonymous program, if you today nobody can be anonymous. The world isn't set up the way it was in 1930s when they wrote the big book. But I recover out loud because someone will say, "Oh, you're sober? Like, wow, how many years do you have sober?" I go, "23 years. My son is struggling. Do you know where he could," and right away give him my number. I'll give him someone he can talk to. Because when you recover out loud, you let other people know that there's hope. So that's the number one thing. And the thing that was really the
Love
most
that.
yeah, and I think the thing that is most freeing for me is about, I think that in life we need to have three things. We need human connection, right? We need to be around other people. And I think when your mental health sucks, you want to isolate, and that's what pulls you into addiction. So I think human connection is key. I think to have something that you feel good about yourself about, like self-esteemable actions that give you confidence, like going to the gym, going to a meeting, doing something that's helping yourself, and also having a purpose. Like my purpose is to help someone who's suffering. That's what I'm on this earth to do. God gave me a second chance, and that's my purpose. And I think when you have a purpose, you have human connection, and you feel fulfilled, like with what you guys are doing on your podcast, that takes you to another level of freedom.
Yeah,
We have a
definitely.
lot in common. We really do. So my favorite quote that I have on plastered all over my house and stuff is healing out loud because I nearly died in silence because I live with a pretty serious mental illness, and it almost killed me multiple times. One sometimes by suicidal actions and sometimes by doctor negligence where I was in the ICU for 3 weeks learning how to walk, talk, swallow, and breathe with a brain injury. So I was so silent about who I am and the way I was born for so many years. And all that did was teach me to shove all this pain and this trauma down deeper and deeper and be embarrassed and have guilt about the way I was born. But today it is so freeing, like you're saying, and such the opposite. Hey, my name is Maddie. I live with schizoaffective bipolar type, PTSD, OCD, and anxiety. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it makes me a superhero because I can overcome every extra obstacles every single day while battling my mental illness. And now I can help other people do the same. So I love what you say about recovery out loud because I do the exact same thing. And I think it's one of the most important things someone can do once they're secure in their recovery.
Absolutely. I love what you
Yeah, no,
just
I
said.
agree.
Do you recover out loud also, Pete, or just Maddie?
No, I just support people that recover from that. I had a close friend that he had been through it a long time and he got out. He had 22 years clean. And every time he posts something, I always hype it up for anybody. And I have this Facebook thing I follow that has a bunch of people that going through sobriety. And anytime I see it, I celebrate it like you just won the World Series type thing, like I hype it up for people because I know how hard it is. I'm like, I've sit there and watch a lot of this stuff because I've always want to know more. So I spent
Yeah.
some time on that side just to learn about some of these other people and what they deal with and some of the struggles they go with and things like that. Because mental health and addiction are hand in hand. A lot of people self medicate to try and fix the problem,
I
and it really
did.
doesn't work for the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Like it. But I try to celebrate it all because I like, what I mean? Like it's hard for people. Like, like you hear stories of these people that go through this shit and then the people give them a hard time. It's like, bro, let's look at the fact that what they came through to where they're now. You're too worried about where they used to be, not where they're now. Like where they're now, they're doing a lot better. They're a lot different. They're not on that shit anymore. How about celebrate the fact that they kicked that stuff? Why worry about how they used to be? That's not the same person you're talking to. And a lot of times you hear that though. It's like, and like when Maddie started sharing her story, like the things people were saying is just like so disgusting. It's just like, what the hell's wrong with y'all, dude? Like she's out here telling you about what she deals with. Like for her to tell you some of these things, like you guys should not be sitting here giving her hell about it. But we all know how the internet is. It's a dangerous place to share things on. So
Well, I appreciate that
Absolutely.
Yvette is so open and honest. She said, "Hey, I used to be a stripper, and
mhm.
I used to do things like that as well when I was manic and using substances way in my 20s." But it's like, do I talk about it? Do I not talk about it? And I'm just now getting the confidence in myself to say, "Hey, yeah, I did a lot of sketchy things, but I was also very manic and very ill. I was also high on drugs." And I was also very young trying to understand what was going on with me, and I lived with a lot of guilt and shame about it for many years. So it's inspiring to see people like you who can be so open and even write a book about it, sharing where you've been and where you've come and looking at it as a thing to be celebrated and not a thing to be shamed about because shame comes so often with these things.
Yeah, I really love what you
Yeah,
said,
I,
Maddie.
I got another friend. She runs in. No, go ahead, Yvette. Sorry.
No, I really love what you said about self-medicating because in that period of my life, I've been to like 7 rehabs, all in and out of psych wards, and I was bipolar, I
Yeah.
was manic, I was this, I was that, I was on Wellbutrin, Prozac, Effexor, all of it. And you know what? No one had ever told me, "Get rid of alcohol." Because alcohol was the fire, that was the gasoline to the fire that I didn't know. But as soon as removed alcohol and drugs, I wasn't manic anymore. Yes, you need medication if you need medication, but some of the most obvious things we don't know because we are so used to living with them. Like I couldn't imagine my life without drugs or alcohol, but once I did remove them, the mania stopped. I could actually listen to follow through and read a page of a book, and things that I could never do before started to happen. And I do believe 100% medication if you need it 100%, but a lot of times a lot of the things that I was on, I did not need to be on. It was just removing the
Well,
alcohol and drugs.
I think that goes back to our broken system, right? Like this happened to me too.
Mhm.
Like in my 20s, they were just like med after med after med after med, max, 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 max. And all that did was destroy my body. And I was still so very sick. But what I wasn't looking at was the holistic care, the lifestyle change that comes along with something like this. No drugs, no alcohol, exercise, adequate sleep, sunlight, coping skills, hydration, all of these other tools in your toolbox that are so necessary. It's I have to take medication the rest of my life, but that it's not the only thing I have to do. I have to create a lifestyle around it.
Absolutely. What were you gonna say, Pete?
I was gonna say though, I have a friend that does an addiction podcast that's out of Canada. That she was actually a call girl. So, like, when y'all are talking about, like, sharing stories and things, she's always, like, wanting to tell us some other things, but she can never say it. Like, Maddie's like, I thought about saying some stories, but I wasn't sure it was okay. Like, she won't tell us those stories. Like, maybe in private she would tell me them, but, it made me think of that moment when me and her were interviewing together. We were talking about that. But, it's so powerful, though, that you came out and just, you're telling people openly about the thing because everyone frowns upon, people that are strippers and things like it's like, dude, at the end of the day, like, make your money where you make your money. I don't care what the hell you're doing in your free time. That's not my business. Hats off for you being so sober for so long though, because man, like you were battling two things at once on top of
Yeah.
the eating disorder. So the mental state you had to be in was just completely gone.
Yeah, they would put me in a rehab for, like, anorexia or bulimia, and then I would be doing drinking and drugging at the place, and then they would put me in a place for drugs and alcohol, and I'd be binging at the cafeteria because there was nothing comprehensive that would do all 3. So I would deal with one, but then the other one.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't know, there's something wrong with our mental health system because so many women I know struggle with
Yes.
eating disorders and with drugs and alcohol, and they just go to rehab, and then they go out and they're
Yes.
throwing up again. Then they're tired of throwing up, so they go back to drinking so they don't have to think about throwing up, and then the circle continues.
Yes.
Yeah.
Say it
You
again. Our system
you
is so broken.
exactly. I was gonna say the same thing. You said it right on the head. It is. There's something completely wrong
Yes.
with it. It's crazy because me, Maddie, and another guest were talking about this too. Oh, it was what's her name? God, Whitney. My friend Whitney came on the show and she was talking about that same thing. They were talking about the price of their prescriptions and how much it costs for these things and like how it's so hard to get. It's like, me and my guest on the other show I just did just a minute ago before I jumped in with you guys, we were talking about that same thing. I was like, then why is it that mental health is so stigmatized? If it's a problem, clearly as day, there's an issue. School
Right,
shootings. What do they mention? The first thing they say is mental health, and then they run away from it instantly. Oh, well, we're going to sweep it under the rug, and then go that way with it when you know there's a problem, but you don't want to fix it. Like,
right,
we know it's an issue. It's a constant issue. The numbers in suicides are up completely, even 10 to 14. That's 10 to 14-year-old boys that are killing themselves. And we're not doing anything about this problem. But it's like, we know this is an issue. Look at the statistics. And yet we sit there and don't do anything about it. It's like everybody just like frowns upon it, like, oh, okay. It's like, what does that number have to hit for somebody to finally start saying something like, yo, we got to do something now? And that's why I push so hard on and having the conversation about it because it's just like it's crazy because people like go deal with these things, and then people have no idea what they're even talking about. Oh, you're narcissistic or I'm also OCD when you have no idea what those even things even mean.
I hate when people do that.
Me and somebody else had talked about that. They were OCD, and she's an author of another book I was talking to, and she said the same thing. That she said it drives me nuts when people say that though. It's like you have no idea what I deal with on a daily basis. People with borderline
Yes.
personality disorder as well get very, very hated on. But people don't listen. Don't people don't use their like we have these phones, but nobody takes time to look it up and see what these people deal with on the other side of the coin. I think a lot of people tend to blur the lines a bit and go, "Oh well, they're a horrible person." But really, was it that, or was it the fact that you didn't take the time to learn what they deal with on their side of the coin?
Educate. I hate when people say like, "Oh, I'm so moody, I'm so bipolar." Let me tell you as someone who lives with bipolar disorder, it is not moodiness. It's a lot more to
Mhm,
it, and I
mhm,
guarantee you, you wouldn't be putting this on yourself so casually and pop culturally if you actually had to live with what we live with.
right.
You know, any kind of hoarding, OCD, bipolar, BPD, schizophrenia, OCD, any of it. It's not a walk in the park. People have to struggle on a daily
But
basis.
but you have to also remember, people think that schizophrenics, all of them hallucinate too. That was a fun statistic to find out as well. A lot of people
Not
think
all
that's the case, and
schizophrenics
they don't.
hallucinate.
They don't. You don't because I've met a few people. I've asked them that question. Say, listen, can I ask you a question? Explain the aspect of that. I host a podcast about mental health, and I'm curious about this for my own information. I said, do you hallucinate? And the one guy I talked to said he sees a little dot. That's it. That's all he sees. That's it. Nothing really
Well, for
crazy, but like a beautiful mind was a great explanation for people that really hallucinate and things like that too. But I think at the same time, people tend to just go based on what they hear on TikTok and
yeah,
everything else, and it's like you don't fact
schizophrenia
check.
schizophrenia is like disorganized thinking, disorganized speech, flat affect, which looks like this. I had that for a really long time. We can have a lot of paranoia, a
Hmm.
lot of delusions, but it doesn't mean we're hallucinating all the time. Like,
Yeah,
there's been long periods of my life where I didn't hallucinate at all. I might have just had paranoia, delusions, confusion, disorganized thinking, disorganized speech, flat affect. I mean, there's a lot more to it than I'm naming, but every person is an individual no matter what their mental health diagnosis is. And so what happens to one person is not necessarily going to happen to the next. We can't bunch these people into one giant label.
yeah, true.
yeah. And mental health doesn't have a face, some of the happiest people committed suicide, and you're like, "What?"
Yes.
It doesn't
Hmm.
have.
Yes.
Very
And I
good
think
point. Very good point.
and I also think now with suicide, but it's also with the fentanyl. Like today, if I was a drug addict today,
Yeah.
like I was a drug addict in the '90s, I'd be dead. There's no doubt about it. The fentanyl epidemic, people are buying Adderall to stay up and study, and they're dying. They're not even drug addicts. They're just staying up to study, and they're dying because there's fentanyl in their Adderall. It's scary. Scary shit.
It's terrifying, and the suicide rates that you guys are talking about are climbing. I am a survivor, and I've lost 2 family members, one being my mom to suicide, and it's a huge passion project of mine. Like, I'm organizing a suicide prevention summit for my area for Suicide Awareness Month. I'm trying to do something for our youth, which is hard, but suicide needs to be something that's talked about. There's a lot of great trainings out there like Assist that you can take for free if you can find them. If you're in North Carolina, I can help you find them, and it'll give you the tools to know, okay, someone told me they feel like they want to kill themselves. Here's an appropriate course of action to take. It's not a bad thing to ask somebody if they feel suicidal.
Thank
That is
you.
not wrong.
Thank
It
you.
is okay because then we can get them the help they need. Beating around the bush and playing games about it. Oh, are you
Yeah.
just not feeling well? Are you having bad thoughts? That's a lot more harmful than saying outright, hey, are you having suicidal thoughts?
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
I
it.
agree.
That's it. And I think when you're
I
at
agree
the end of your
100% with
rope,
you.
so a lot of people just don't think that there's another option, you know? That's why the more we take the
Mhm.
shame out of it, the more we talk about it, the better. You know, any way I can help you, Maddie, with any of that suicide awareness, the summit, anything I can
Yes.
do with, definitely spread the word.
Yeah, we've gotta get together and collaborate on some things. We've got a lot of like-minded missions, and I really wanna, read your book.
Well, I'll send you a book.
Yep.
You guys got to send me your address. I'll send you a book, and I
Hell
can't
yeah.
even.
I'm
Yeah.
definitely I wanna I'm gonna add it to
I
my reading
love
list. It's not right now there. I love it. I love it.
I love the platform. I love what you
Oh, yeah.
guys are doing. Keep doing this. Get the message out there. Let people have a voice. Make the message, baby.
Right. So the only thing that I ask if everybody that sends me something, I want you to sign it for me because it's going into my personal collection.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
Any
God.
sign
books
our
that have been sent to me,
copies.
go to my personal collection. Like, I'm a collector at heart. I collect stuff like that. I've got this that whole bin back there is books that people have sent me through the year and a half of the show I did. Right now I'm doing currently. So I keep them. Like, I'm getting ready to when I, things I keep them as a personal piece of the history because I got to meet these individuals. I got to talk to them. Another guy that works in the sober community is named Massimo Rigotti. He sent me his book too, and it's called The Sober Method. It's a different thinking to the 12-step process that didn't work for him. He doesn't demonize it, which I love about him. Is he's like, I don't. It just didn't work for me, so I made a system that worked for me, and now it works for works for other people too. So for people that can't do the 12 steps, which like I said, nothing wrong with it. Sometimes it doesn't work for everybody. That's cool. If that's your cup of tea, there's so many other different things. Especially, I'm trying to think what is it? Celebrate recovery. I think is the other thing my other buddy does, and it's like a religious based recovery thing too as well. And he works out of Florida, where he does his stuff like that too. But yeah, listen, like I said, like if you're sending me one, I want to sign. Like I said, I keep it for my personal collection. Like I said, I love to keep these things as different momentums of the people I've met on the show. I'm currently reading the 9-time award-winning book by Erica Horowitz and her brother about his addiction and his battle with bipolar and things like that. And you're looking at it through the eyes of him. He's telling you his thoughts and what he was thinking in the moments. So I love reading all these different kind of books and things like that too. I even took time to read a breast cancer memoir, where it was
Wow.
called the double mastectomy I always wanted. It was really great, and I got to interview the author as well. And it was something powerful to look at, man. It's a little graphic at parts, but I mean, it's the realism that people need to understand that these are the people deal with, man. Like, like the scars that she had would look like saw scars. It was some crazy stuff though. But yeah, like I said, I'd love to read it, definitely.
I'll definitely
Yvette, I have
send
a
you guys a
question for you.
sure.
If someone is newly Yeah! So someone is newly sober, newly clean, newly, battling with their eating disorder, and they're just starting to enter recovery. What words of wisdom can you give them to reach the steps that we've been able to with recovering out loud? And I think the most important part is to relinquish the shame and guilt.
Yes, absolutely. Secrets keep you sick. You got to share with another to take out the shame, and you have to ask for help. But first, you have to admit you have a problem. I think a lot of people aren't really ready to surrender, to raise the white flag, to say, I'm fucked up and I need help. Because a lot of times there's no consequence. Year after year, there's no consequence. I'm getting by. It's not that bad. And on Monday, it's not that bad. On Friday, it's getting bad. And you're in the cycle of maybe I'll get help, miserable land of maybe. And you're going nowhere. So you have to admit, because no one can help anyone but yourself. I have to admit that I need help. My way is not working. That's the first thing. You got to own your shit to change your shit, and then ask for help. And then there's so many avenues for help.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's a great point that you have to want to get help because I think a lot of people forget that they try and force people to go into recovery. But if they're not ready to be in recovery, you're not going to do them any favors. It's going to be, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just wasting your time because they'll have to be the first one to admit that they need the help. And, and that's the hardest part for a lot of people. You guys both can speak on that 100% that, it was one of those things you had to admit to yourselves because you can't force people to do something they don't want to do.
I
No,
think it's
I
one of the
always
hardest things I've had to do. One of the hardest things I've had to do as a sober adult is watch family members who didn't find recovery, and I wanted it so badly for them
Yeah.
that I was throwing resources and this and that and help, and all I was doing was turning into an enabler and ruining my own mental health. And so
mm,
for me and my space, after years of this unhealthy behavior, I had to put my foot down and say, "I can't have a relationship with you. When you're ready, I'm here for you, but while you're in this cycle, you're doing nothing but dragging me down, and I'm just not gonna stand for that anymore."
it's 100%. I tell people pain is a great motivator for change. When the pain is great enough, worse than staying where you are, then you'll actually do it something different.
Yeah. I love it. I love it, both of y'all. Thank you so much for both of y'all sharing, man. I really appreciate it. Yvette, thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us.
I bet
So,
you've been great. You have been
Thank
yeah,
you
we
fabulous.
absolutely
guys.
Go
loved
buy
you.
where can we buy your book at?
It's on
Yeah, definitely.
Amazon, and you can buy the book on Amazon, and I'm also on Instagram at Yvette Salva Fitness.
Awesome.
We will tag all that.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank
We'll
you
definitely
so
put all
much,
that in
guys.
links to the show and everything like that.
All right,
So,
thanks,
Yvette,
guys. I
before we sign
appreciate
off,
you.
do you, do you have any last words for anybody before we start signing off?
No, thank you so much for having me. Keep inspiring others, get the message out there, and keep creating impact.
All right, guys. With that being said, we're going to wrap up this episode of Voice of the Voiceless. Once again, Yvette, thank you so much for being here today. It was great meeting you. I look forward to reading the book. Maddie, you have anything you want to say to the kids before we sign off?
Don't be shamed by your past. Go out there and live out loud.
I
Live
love it,
out
guys. All right,
loud,
guys.
baby.
And as always, I always say, be bold, be brave, be one of the voice of voices, guys. You know where to find us each every Saturday. Check us out every week. Guys, you never know. You could be the next voice of the voiceless.
Thank
Yeah.
you.